Wagwan, everyone. Welcome to Film Shrapnel, your one-stop spot for everything movies. My name's Tobias, and this is my partner in crime, Craig Britton. Hello, Craig.
How's it going, man?
Today, everyone, we are doing quite a special horror film. Craig, we've done the 50s, we've done the 60s, so it only logically makes sense that today we're doing the 70s. And have you seen this film, Craig?
I have seen bits of, like, small
Same.
fragments of it, but never the whole thing. I'm really not very familiar with Dario Argento. I know of his work. I know he's influential, but I've never really seen anything, to be honest.
I know a couple of his films. There's one, what's it called? Vertebrae. And there's another one that I've seen, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. I've seen them. And to be fair, they're all much of a muchness. This is the thing with Argento. They're all very stylized, but like in other aspects, in the parts of it that you're like, oh my God, this is directed like beautifully. The cinematography is incredible, blah, blah, blah. But then there are other aspects of the film where it's like, oh my God, this is just the worst. And, you know, and it just sort of depends on, I've got a note here. I'm skipping well ahead, but I've got a note here that maybe Dario Argento is the Zack Snyder of horror.
That's a good comment.
Maybe, because the thing is, like, there's a lot of style in his cinema, but then you also have really terrible acting.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that I keep thinking about,
And
writing, the plot. There are some things that really don't make sense to me. Shall we go quickly over the film before
let's jump in. 1977, this one?
Yeah.
Suspiria, Dario Argento, Italian filmmaker. It feels quite Italian in style as well, I have to say. So it's basically a dance school it's also a coven of witches. And that's your plot. That's your whole story. Like, there's really not much more outside of that. That's the story. And there's a lot of bad writing, bad everything. But then there's so much really good shit in this movie as well.
Yeah, like my biggest problem with this film, I can get through the stylized stuff. I get it. It's the 70s. I can buy that. The biggest thing that I can't get over in my head. So we have this character, Susie, and she's an American girl, and she's going to study at this school in Freiburg, which is actually in German. Funny enough, it's an Italian film made in Germany. But what gets me is that I don't really get why they start suspecting the teachers are witches, because it just seems to be this one point where her friend Sarah is like they're sleeping in this because they were like maggots from the ceiling or something, which is a very silly shot, by the way. The way that happened was very weird, a bit cartoonish, a bit comedic, when it should have been a bit probably more scary, by accident, I think. But and then from this point onwards, Sarah starts suspecting that they're witches, and it didn't click for me. The jump in logic.
Yeah, but that's because the other friend who Susie sees when she first arrives, that runs off and then obviously is found dead. I think eventually is found dead or just disappears.
She was stabbed at the beginning.
Right. So we know that her friend found out some crucial information. So we don't know what the friend told Sarah before she left. She could have told us some substantial information that could have been relevant. But we don't see it, obviously. But yeah, I think we're meant to assume that girl gave Sarah some kind of information, because we know that Sarah was the girl that spoke to Susie on the intercom as well. That's revealed later on.
She didn't let her in, the bitch.
Yeah, I know. I know.
But freaking
Such an
thunderstorm
idiot.
happening outside. No, I don't know
E-
who you are. Go away.
exactly. And I don't understand why the teachers never investigated that either. That like she says, "Oh, I came last night and someone said to me, 'Oh, I don't know who you are,' and told me to go away." And then they never investigated like who was it that spoke to you. Like surely you asked around, did anyone speak to that girl on the intercom last night? And when everyone says no, then surely you're asking around anyway. Though that's a minor detail. There's a lot of minor details that we could talk about in this movie. Can we talk about some good stuff?
Go on, go
There's a
ahead.
lot, there's some amazing stuff. So I'm just going to jump right in. Goblin, the soundtrack by Goblin is incredible, like unreal. Since watching the movie, I've since gone and listened to Goblin doing it live.
Hmm.
It's intense. It's really really good.
I was going to ask if you thought it added to the film or took away from it, but I do
What?
agree. There were, like, for example, early on in the film when Pat is being murdered and she's alone
Mm,
in the bathroom, and the tension it added to the tension very nicely. Like, I
mm-hmm.
don't think you have many films. Well, no, I think I'm wrong about that. I think there are films that add tension with music in the
Well,
70s, but I think that this did it in a kind of different way that really worked really nicely.
you see, the thing is, I wasn't sure. So the thing, obviously, the problem, although is it a problem though? But the problem with the music in this is it's the same song played over and over again, pretty much. Like
Yeah.
it's very very repetitive. It's that same sort of musical beat, but every time you hear it, there's a definite shift in its tone in some way that does contribute to the scenes, I think. But the thing is, it is quite repetitive. But then, is that a bad thing? Because you know when to find, like, when it gets a little bit jarring hearing the music, isn't that sort of intentional? It's meant to set you on edge a little bit. Like, it is very, quite an unsettling sort of selection of sounds. It's really not like a sort of relaxing piece of music. It's very very intense, and like, yeah, I feel like perhaps how repetitive it is actually contributes to the tone of the film,
I think it gives the
perhaps.
film more of an identity as well. This is
Absolutely.
Suspiria's music, you know.
Yeah. And also, besides the music, I also think that it's shot beautifully.
Yeah, I do agree with you most of the time on that, but there were a few moments where I found it a bit
Yeah,
oddly shot. Like,
sure.
thinking again about the first murder, Pat, who's also
Mm,
American, I guess. There's like three Americans there, the only main characters, even though everyone
mm,
speaks Italian. So when she's murdered in the bathroom, she's being attacked. Like, she's looking through a window, and the goblin thing, whatever it's supposed to be, which was never really. Is it supposed to be the witch? And they don't really explain what that thing is, do they?
I think it's a witch.
Is it actually supposed to be Helena Marcos, though?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, we
Pretty
got to talk
sure.
about that. We got to
that
talk. That's a
that
big topic there we need to discuss.
Yeah, that
Um,
sort of, that black, what was she called? The Black Queen or something?
yeah, Black Queen. Yeah. So what was I going to say? Yeah. So when she's being attacked in the bathroom's locked, and her friend is like banging on the door trying to help her. But it looked, the way it was shot, I was so confused because it looked like she's banging on the bathroom door to get her out, but she's not. She's actually trying to bang. She's trying to get through the front door so she can bang on the neighbor's door, I think, because it
Yeah,
did you notice that? It was very
I
strange.
don't
Like,
remember.
it's just the way that the direction was. I was very confused. Because she's knocking on the door, so you immediately think that's the bathroom door. But then she goes
Mm.
through that door, and then there's another door. And you're like, what? Where exactly is she supposed to be right now? Like, is this a neighbor's? Like, she's screaming for help, like she's being murdered. So I'm assuming it's a neighbor that she's shouting for, not
Mm.
the bathroom. Yeah, I just found that kind of strange. Like,
Yeah, I think I can see the scene in my head. It is a bit strange. The sort of sense of space
yes,
is a bit
yes.
What language did you watch this movie in?
Italian.
So I also watched it in Italian. The whole film was dubbed in Italian, and you can tell that people are speaking English, and they're subtitled in English, but they're being dubbed into Italian. And I think this is like a sort of a trend of Argento's stuff, that he would just, you know, let everyone speak in their native language and then just dub it later. He was quite notorious for that.
Didn't you once tell me about a film he did with Christopher Lee?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if Argento made it, but I know Christopher Lee did a film. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Argento did do it. But I know, yeah, Christopher Lee went and did an Italian horror film, and he spoke the whole movie in English. And then obviously they dubbed it all into Italian for the Italian market. But then when they dubbed it into English, they also dubbed Christopher Lee. So there's some other dude speaking when Christopher Lee should be speaking. It's really weird. Yeah. That's a real thing. We should look that up. That's a real thing that happened.
Speaking of nationality, the Romanian guy, what the fuck was up with that?
The Romanian guy. What, the sort of like Uncle Fester kind of character?
Yeah, like
Yeah, that was a bit strange.
I even wrote down the line. He's ugly. Don't be afraid to say so. He only speaks Romanian. And I go, what the fuck?
I know.
That's messed up.
There's some seriously shit dialogue. Like there was one where there's some like girl who's clearly like the popular girl. She comes and sits with them, and they're like, oh, you're Sarah and your name's Susie. They say that girls with the letter S at the beginning of their name are snakes. And then they start like putting faces at each other. It's
Yeah.
really odd. It's really, a lot of the sort of character moments are pretty strange. It's like Dario Argento's never met a human being before. I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. Some of the behavior just isn't human at all. I have to point out, though, I mean, I know we keep deviating. Dario Argento, after the sort of 80s, he stopped making good movies. Like the rest of his filmography is just dreadful. It's worth pointing out that, you know, he really had his day in the 80s, and he was really good. I really liked Suspiria. I really liked this film.
Yeah, you know what's kind of funny is that whenever I look up this film, I'm always getting results for the 2018 version. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, me too.
this is a legendary film. Why is this not coming before the remake? I don't know. I
Know.
struggle with that.
Yeah, I know. I'm quite confused. Maybe the remake has just reached a larger market, perhaps.
Probably.
But, you know, this film really is. Whether you argue about like all the bad things in it, it absolutely succeeds in tone, in genuine scares, you know, and genuinely good filmmaking. That stuff is ever present in this movie, but it also has some bad shit for sure. Because I think I said it earlier. I think you can liken a lot of these shots to Kubrick. I had a lot of like Shining vibes from the interior shots of the school. I really felt like it was very sort of Shining-esque in a couple of the shots, even like 2001: Space Odyssey-esque. The interior shots, I thought it was very Kubricky.
I didn't think about that, but now you mention it, now I can really see it. Yeah, now
Yeah,
I think about the whole interior of the school. Yeah.
yeah. And also the use of color. Can we talk about color in this movie? Oh my
It's
God.
everywhere.
It's everywhere. And it's from like the get-go. Like, because like this, when the movie starts, she gets off a plane, she's arriving in Germany, and she's going to go to this dance school. And like the moment she gets off the plane, this area of the airport, it's just this deep red flashing light, and it just illuminates everything in this like sort of blood red glow. And like half the people at this airport are dressed in some kind of red clothing, some article of red clothing, and red is everywhere. And it's just like this sense of foreboding just the moment the movie starts. Like it's only going to get worse from here. The moment you've landed in Germany, shit's going down. Just yeah, you know, you've made a mistake. You've made a mistake. Welcome to Germany, motherfucker. And yeah, and like obviously blue as well. Red and blue are sort of throughout this entire film. A lot of this film looks like Spider-Man's puked everywhere. It's red. It's red and blue all over the place. But we do get like a few sort of jumps into green and yellow, but that comes a bit later. The vast majority of like the first half of the film, it's just red and blue. I think it's meant to be like magic. Do you think that's the magic? Like the moment she gets off the plane in Germany, she's sort of under this magic shit.
I don't know if there's too much meaning in it, to be
I
honest.
think there is. There's definitely. I've got so many notes about the use of color in this movie that I really want to get into. Like seriously, I think there are so many bits where the color feels very, very intentional, especially the
Mm,
end. But I'll tell you what. I'll save it. I'll save it for when we get there in the plot. Should we talk about? Oh well, no, because now we have to talk about color anyway. Because you mentioned that we had the maggots falling from the ceiling, and then they
yeah,
go and sleep in that sort of white blanket room. And when they turn the lights off, it's just red. Everything's red, and then we hear
yeah.
some Black Queen. What's her name? Is it Black Queen?
Helena Markos, who's supposed
Helena
to be
Marcos.
Greek, but doesn't sound very Greek, that name.
No, but Helena Marcos, the Black Queen, we hear her snores, uh, which have like this whistle. She's meant to be like the sort of super queen witch.
Yeah, but this whole scene I found funny because,
It's weird, right?
okay,
Why is she sleeping behind them?
yeah, and because it's maggots, of course. Even witches, they can't sleep with maggots, I guess.
Yeah, but
Uh,
she's in some like separate room, though, isn't she? She's hidden away.
well, I guess they got maggots in there as well. They got to go clean them. Like,
So the maggots weren't part of some like witchy curse thing. Like, because obviously when she does her first dance, she has like I don't know, like a brain hemorrhage or something,
yeah, which by
and
the way they
and the,
handled really fucking weirdly.
yeah, well, because it's I took it that the witches gave her this sort of brain hemorrhage, and she has to have a sit down, and I thought that the witches were doing the maggot shit. But
Yeah.
then, as you say, maybe that if the reason that the Black Queen is sleeping there means that she had maggots, then maybe they just genuinely had a maggot problem in the school, which is strange, right? It's so weird. Such a happenstance thing. There's already so much shit going on. You've got a maggot infestation while you're at it. Would have been
Yeah.
interesting if maggots were there because, like, the Black Queen is like hundreds of years old, so she's like all basically decaying and shit. So she's the maggot. She's all maggoty, and that's where the maggots come from. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, but apparently it's just they have a maggot infestation. So
I was going to say maybe that's too good of an idea for
yeah,
this movie. Yeah,
but
maggot
that's
infestation
but that
is.
scene again, like it's just like you have Sarah suddenly wake up Susie, or I'm not sure if she's asleep yet. By the way, she does that a lot in this film. Sarah
Mm,
just never lets Susie sleep.
exactly. You would have asked for a new roommate. You've just arrived at this dance school in Germany. You don't know anyone, and then this roommate of yours just continually wakes you up in the middle of the fucking night. You just be like, you know what? I'm moving rooms.
I
Thank
don't
you.
care if there's witches. Just fuck off and let me
Yeah,
sleep.
get by with it. Get by with it. I'm done. Well, this speaking of sleep, could you not argue that maybe all the use of color is like to sort of set this in like a dreamscape?
Yeah, but you said earlier the color is not just in the school, right? It's also at the beginning when she arrives at Germany, and then I
Yeah,
think in some other locations outside the school we had some color.
it's foreshadowing with the color. It's foreshadowing this sense of danger.
I guess that could kind of work if you could suggest that she's under like kind of like a curse or something, maybe, or like a
I mean,
spell has been put on her.
I feel like you can definitely make that argument,
Mm,
but still, you know, I also think you could say that it's just foreshadowing in the color.
yeah. Do you want to talk about the color at the end then? Because I know you want to talk more about color. Go on. Tell us your
Well,
thoughts.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you some just really brief notes, and then we can go into it when we get there in the story. I would say that yellow is like a hopeful color. When yellow gets introduced, it's when Sarah is trying to escape. I think it's the first time we see yellow light in the film, and from that point, we start seeing it more and more throughout, like this building sense of hope. But the first time we see the yellow light, Sarah locks herself into this door, and it's like a blue room. Everything's blue, and then like whoever's after has got a knife, and it's come through the door, and it's trying to open the lock.
Oh my God, I have so much notes on that scene.
I know, I love this scene so much. I'll tell you why as well, because also the color. So let's talk about this scene real brief. My views, and you can tell me how shit you think it is. So my views, when I was watching this, the whole time I was thinking, oh my God, whoever is fucking doing this knife thing is just so incompetent, so stupid that they can't open this fucking lock. Like, it's so annoying. But, and then also when you consider that this is the first introduction of yellow, and there's this small window, and there's this yellow light coming out of it. So she climbs up to the yellow window, albeit it takes so long, and this guy is not getting through this fucking door. So it seems really annoying. And then she
Yeah,
gets through the window, and then she sees that if she jumps, she can get to an open window so she can escape. And when she jumps, she falls into barbed wire. Now, don't get me wrong, the barbed wire is clearly not barbed, and it's not overly graphic in terms of the blood, but the performance really, really sells it. And they don't even cut away from it. They really let you look, and you can see there are no barbs on that wire, but she really, really sells the idea that she is like in a fucking in a game from a Saw movie. And that's when you realize that the reason why this guy behind the door has been so incompetent with the door is that this is something they've done to escaping girls before, allowed them to think they're going to get away and then let them jump into the barbed wire. Like I say, at first you're going, oh, this is so irritating. And then when you actually get the payoff, you realize, oh no, it was entirely intentional to give her enough time so she could do that. And that's also why I think that yellow represents hope, because it's the first time we see yellow, and it's only this little slit through a window that she has to climb up to. And then it enters into a blue room, so it's like hope taken away.
it's nice analysis, and I really like how you think that that's the idea. But I really think that
I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, Craig.
you are very much trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I refuse to give it that. I feel that
Oh, really?
I,
Go on.
I just
Pick it apart.
thinking about all the other odd things in the film. Is it not unrealistic to believe that maybe Dario Argento has never opened a door before? Has never.
I mean, I think it isn't unrealistic that he's never met a human being before in some of these scenes. So yeah, if I'm perfectly honest, it could be bad filmmaking. I liked it, and I want to believe that it was intentional. I really do.
If you're correct, I really hope there's a demon on the other side. It's like, fuck's sake, just put those boxes together and pull in the barbed wire. I'm tired of flipping this fucking thing. It's so slow.
I've got to wait for you to get through the window before I can start running around so I can meet you on the other side.
My wrist is starting to hurt.
But I've got carpal tunnel here, and I'm really trying to sell this. Oh dear. I thought so yeah, so that's my views on yellow anyway. In terms of green, who knows? Maybe it's when the witches are watching. I don't know. Green just sort of jumps in out of nothing. I need to watch it again to have my thoughts about green. I have to say, though, I thought it was interesting. They have this place they call the Red Room, and that's where they learn how to dance, but also where I assume the witches just get their kicks playing tricks on them.
Yeah.
You know, like making them have brain hemorrhages and shit in the middle of dance rehearsal, because why not?
I'd really like to know what the point of that was. I really think it was just an effect of the spell that they're kind of
I
putting
think
on her.
I think it was to prepare her to become a witch. Because I think the whole point is that they're grooming witches. The point I was going to make anyway, going backwards, they've got this red room where they're doing the dancing, and I suppose to train them to becoming either dancers or witches. I don't know the fuck. But I got Black Swan and Black Widow vibes. Pretty sure Black Widow even they have a red room where she has her origins as well. And obviously Black Swan, I don't think it's quite obvious why you would liken this movie to Black Swan. You have to bear in mind, like they're at a dance school. I used to go to like performing arts schools and shit. I know people like this. The way they all behave. I know it sounds like bad acting, but some of that acting, very realistic. I won't lie to you. Certainly the ones that think they're all that.
And we also talk about murdering then.
Murdering.
Yeah, there's at least two significant murders that I can think of off the top of my head.
Let's have a chat about murdering then.
So, what did you think about when Pat is murdered at the beginning? Did you think it was very horrific? I don't know.
Not
Uh,
particularly. I don't think any of the. I don't think this movie is remotely graphic. This
Not
movie is
really.
not. Yeah, it's not too. It's not too violent. There's a couple of moments where you get like a little bit of gore, but it's more suggested than anything.
Yeah, there is a bit. So, I did find it kind of funny. So, whatever this monster thing is, let's assume it's the witch. We need to talk about that, by the way.
So do
Helena
we think
Markos.
it's? Do we think it's Helena Marcos?
See, can I tell you the reason why I'm not
Or is
sure?
she just like sort of possessing shit, or all the other witches doing shit for her, or what?
The reason I'm not sure if it's her or not is because at the end, when we have Susie uh, versus the witch, she's in her witch's bedroom or whatever, and she wakes up because she knocked something over by accident, and she possesses the body of Sarah, which is a good argument for possession, by the way, as you just mentioned. Um, so Sarah is coming towards Susie with a knife. She's
Mm-hmm.
clearly been murdered.
It's the
And
climax of the movie.
yeah, this is the
Great.
climax of the
I
movie.
really like this bit though.
Yeah.
Go on.
And Susie realizes there's like a kind of strange outline on the bed, and she realizes that's the witch, and she just stabs her and she dies.
It was like Predator, wasn't it? It was like it was like you've spotted Predator, like just the outline of Predator. So you're like, oh, okay. But by the time you spot Predator, he'll kill you. You spot this bitch, and she just sits there and lets you
that's
stab her.
that's why I have a problem with believing that the
That
creature,
she's flying around and shit, eating
yeah,
people.
because
Yeah.
there are two murders by this character. There's one where it's Pat, and there's another one where it's the blind guy, the piano player Daniel, gets murdered as well.
Okay, can
Uh,
we talk briefly about the whole blind guy with a dog subplot?
Go on, go on. I'm sure you
Okay,
have some stuff here.
so we can do like a sort of smash cut of this for a YouTube video or a TikTok. So one of the subplots of this film, there's a blind guy who's just your typical blind guy who's got a really lovely sort of guide dog, you know, and this dog is like really well trained, super lovely. And he plays piano or some shit at the dance school for witches. So while the girls are doing ballet and the witches are doing witchcraft, he's playing the piano and he seems nice enough. But he also, you know, we've seen how the witches have been talking about, oh, you can call the Romanian guy ugly because he don't speak English. So because he's blind, I don't think the witch is really taken very seriously either. And then at one point, a little boy and an old hag approach the dog who's tied up outside. And then we cut to the witch shouting at the blind man for the dog attacking the little boy who, oh, I'll get back to that little boy. Um, so apparently the dog had bitten the little boy. So the blind man has to go and the blind man takes the dog and then the dog and the blind man, and I don't know why I've got Michael Caine, but he's come out. And the dog and the blind man, they're like walking through like the German town, which happens to be completely empty at this point. And they just keep getting attacked by a camera, and this camera keeps attacking them. And so every now and again, you might think, oh, maybe there's a gargoyle, like, because they keep showing you like these stone gargoyles on the top of buildings. So, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it's a gargoyle? And then, like, the cameras stop attacking the man and the dog, and then it just sits there, and we wait, and we wait, and then we have this really obscurely angled shot of the dog, and then suddenly the dog attacks the blind man, and he dies.
Yeah, and he's clearly licking his face.
He's clearly a good boy, really. Yeah, he's clearly a good boy. He's a good boy. You know, he's a good boy, but you know, he has to do some acting. You know, but yeah, you can tell that dog's a good boy. He's not a bad boy. He's not a bitey boy. He's a good boy. And then later on in the film, we find out that the little boys and the old hag is actually part of this covenant of witches as well. We see
Yeah,
them in a room where they're all sitting around the Black Queen, Helena, whatever her name, and Helen,
Marcos.
Helena Marcos, and yeah, so we know the little boy's in on it and the old hag's in on it in some way, but to what end and what purpose, what functionality all of this serves, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. Again, I'm not putting
But
too much brain
but
power behind some of the decisions in this film.
I do like the scene. I was not expecting the dog to go ape shit, and it did take me by surprise, and I did like it a lot. But again, what is going on? Why is it going on? And can you tell me? Because I don't know.
Well, in that sense, I'll take the flip side of what you were doing earlier. Maybe that was all just to create tension. Maybe that was deliberate.
No, yeah, no, I think all that was deliberate to like bring out of nowhere that the dog attacked. Absolutely, I think all that was intentional. But why? Why did they set up the old man anyway? Why did they set up the blind man and the dog? Why not? Why did they have to do that to it? Stylistically, I thought it was amazing, but plot-wise, it makes zero sense.
Yeah, because they say later on, there's some very academic bit later on in the film after Sarah is murdered, where she meets Susie meets her friend who's a psychiatrist, and she speaks to then professor, and they talk about witches and all the stuff behind it. I don't think we really needed that, by the way. It was interesting. It's a bit of a 70s thing where it gets very academic at one point. Um, and yeah, we learn about witches and how they can be very spiteful and they want revenge. So by that end, it makes sense. If the dog bit the child, they want to get revenge. The same with, there was something else about revenge earlier as well, but I can't remember. Doesn't matter. But it doesn't make sense if they set up the blind guy, because I don't believe that the dog would have attacked the boy unless
No, of
there was
course.
some witchcraft.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely it. And we know that it was a setup because the little boy's with the witches. So we know something's going on, but it's like what? What's
And,
actually happening?
and we know that the witches can control the dog because the dog is the one that kills Daniel. So it's like, what is
Yes.
really, why?
Yeah, that's quite a good point as well. So yeah, what is the whole functionality of all of that when you probably could have just killed the blind man anyway at the school in private,
Or just fire the fucker
or
and
just
get a new
fire
guy.
him? Although he does say, "I hear things" when he leaves, which would imply that he does know something.
Hmm.
But maybe that's why they killed him. Because, well, no, because they still set him up, so it still doesn't make sense that the whole. Yeah, it still doesn't make sense. I tell you what does make sense, or maybe this is the logic we should do: witchcraft plus voodoo equals dance school, and maybe that's all the logic we should really employ.
Yeah, basically.
I have to say, there's one point where is it Sarah, where she's running from the witches, but then she's still in, or is it Susie? And she, even though she's running away, she finds like a hidden door and decides to investigate. And it's like, but you're running away. You're trying to get out. Why are you doing investigating right now? Just
Are you
leave.
talking? Are you talking towards the end?
I don't
Where?
remember. I don't remember whether it was. I think it was when Sarah was escaping. I think this was
Okay.
the barbed wire surprise scene where they're trying to knife open the lock.
Yeah.
Because after that we get because they do eventually slit a throat open. By the way, I thought the throat slit was done quite well. Uh,
Mm.
that looked good. Well, I say good. It looked realistic. Um, well, it looked like 1970s realistic. But then, did you notice the big Hollywood star in this movie?
Who?
Udo Kier. Udo Kier pops up now. Susie goes to speak to Udo Kier, and we get explained to us about the whole cult
Oh,
thing. The
yeah. I
German
did actually look him up actually because I thought that guy looks very familiar.
dude, he's in fucking Blade. He's like the vampire, like the main vampire in Blade, like the Count. He's like Count Dracula in Blade One,
I'm
and
so
he's also in Ace Ventura.
Yeah, I'm so used to seeing him as an older guy though. I haven't seen him this young before, so it was a bit like you
He
look
is
familiar, but I
very
can't point it.
yeah, he is very young in this, very young. And like this, the older he's gotten, the more distinguished he looks. Like he looks more like George Clooney now. So this movie just doesn't look anything like him. But I saw it in him. I was like, I've just got to look this up because I'm sure that's. And I couldn't think of his name either. So I was
Yeah,
like, I'm sure that's the dude from Ace Ventura and Blade. And I looked it up. And I was like, yeah, it is. No shit. So
I
yeah,
was also I saw him and like stop. Let me see who you are because I know I recognize that face.
yeah. And I like Udo Kier. You know, anything I've seen him in, he's always good. Um, and then we're back at the school after that, and I think we see the Black Queen, which is all. I think the whole movie's just beautifully shot. By the way, I just can't get out. Like every time I read some of my notes, it just makes me remember a scene where I'm like, God, it's just shot so beautifully. So you know, there's a lot to love about this movie. But I've got it written here: Bat Attack. Do you remember the Bat
I
Attack?
I do, and there's one big thing I have to say about this. Like, do you think
Do you?
bats can get stuck on their back like that? Because if she hits it, I think at one point, and it falls on the ground, and it's struggling to get up using its wings. And like I've seen that happen with some bugs, but I also like turtles as well. That happens as well. But like, I don't know if
Well,
bats. Did that happen to a bat? I think a bat might be able to get back up by
if you
itself.
if you broke a bat wing, perhaps the bat would struggle on its back like that. But to be fair, it doesn't look remotely realistic anyway. So I'm not even going to bother trying to argue it. It looks shit.
Yeah, it looks very stupid.
It
Like,
looks dumb as fuck.
yeah,
But
and like,
I have to say though, this is where yellow starts getting more prominent.
ah, it's interesting by the way, because you thought that it implies hope, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but it's interesting because it's kind of near the end, so she could almost die.
In this scene, in the final climax, it's the first time she's even wearing the color yellow.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I think Dario Argento is so privy to detail that yeah, he all of this is on purpose. I am sure all of this is on. I'm pretty sure that yellow is hope in this
Yeah,
movie. So yeah, so she's not only is she wearing yellow, but there's the she finds a yellow, red, and blue flower on the wall, and blue is the one that opens the door, which could potentially be maybe blue is like secret. Maybe blue means secret,
mm,
or maybe it's the magic, the witchcraft, and red is obviously danger. Um, and then it opens up into a corridor that's yellow, predominantly yellow, and there are world languages on the wall. I could only notice Hebrew and Latin. I didn't notice English, and I don't know if there was any others, but I did notice Hebrew and Latin.
I would have suspected there to have been some Greek there, since the Black
Yeah.
Queen is supposed to be
Well,
Greek, but never
maybe
mind.
maybe it was Greek as well. Maybe there was some Greek in there. Like I say, I noticed Latin, but maybe I'm Maybe because obviously my Latin's hardly very good. You give me English letters, but you put a couple of dots above them. I think it's Latin, isn't it? Especially you put it on
Dots.
a especially you put it on a wall. You put it on a
Dot.
wall
If you put
in a
dots on it, I think it's Germanic. I think it's like
oh
German or
oh yeah
Scandinavian.
oh don't ruin my joke. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. But yeah, like ultimately, I'd be very easy to convince that there's no Latin on there because I'm not a Latin speaker at all.
Interesting that you think it's hopeful because she's getting closer and closer to the coven. And if she gets
Yes.
discovered, shouldn't that be danger then? She's getting very close to
Well,
potentially being killed.
because look, I refuse to believe that Dario Argento is not telling a story with color here. I truly believe the progression of color in this scene is super important. I really believe that. I believe that all the color choices here are considered, and he is definitely telling a story with color for
Hmm.
sure, for sure. The progression of colors, it feels so on purpose. So then she hears the witch, and they're all plotting to kill her, and she's sort of like in this sort of yellow hue. But it is hopeful because she gets away, but she does find the body of Sarah, and she has needles in her eyes, and she's like crucified to the table.
Yeah, I forgot about the crucifixion as well.
Pretty
Right for the
brutal,
wrist. Yeah.
pretty brutal. And then that's when we meet the Black Queen, aka the Wheezy Woman, and that's when, like you said, the witch goes predator mode and then becomes Sarah, who comes and tries to kill her. And you know what? She kills the Black Queen and it kills all the other witches. What a stroke of luck. In fact, it kills everything. It even makes the whole fucking building start to combust into flames. So isn't that convenient?
Yeah, so they explained early on that like with the coven of witches, there's like always one like a black queen witch who's like super powerful, and like the others, their power is pretty much based on her, didn't they?
It's like a colony of ants.
Yeah, kill the queen and everyone dies.
Hmm. But like just it's so annoying when they do that in movies, I think. When like you kill like the one, you take out the tower, or you get rid of the main spaceship, all the other spaceships will die. Like it's just so ugh, you
It's
know.
instead about it would be more interesting if she had to run from the ones that were still alive.
Hmm.
But
Exactly.
by the way, again, talking about Helena Marcos, if she's the goblin gargoyle thing that first kills Pat at the beginning, if she's a witch, why does she even need to go there herself? And why does she stab her with a knife? I just, I,
I don't
I don't know.
know. I don't know. I suppose maybe because I think Argento was playing with slasher films around that time. So I
Hmm.
think that was really where his roots were, perhaps. Or maybe I'm just totally wrong. I don't know. I don't
I
know. I'm
do.
just trying to justify it because I do really like this film and I really hope it's on purpose.
I think some of it's not. I think there are some areas that are definitely on purpose and some areas that are not. Uh,
The writing is terrible, the plot is terrible, the acting is terrible, but the direction is sublime. The the cinematography, the set pieces, uh, the use of color. It's just such a palatable movie.
do you think this film sets some milestones for some horror stuff? Because I think that's why a lot of people
Yeah.
like reference it as an influence.
Well, I mean, I think this is probably, whether you like this film or don't like this film, this is probably one of the best examples of a genuinely scary witch movie. We don't really have many of them. They're quite rare. Usually, when you get witches, you'll get things like Witches of Eastwick, which, is a bit more light-hearted, tongue-in-cheek, still has its moments of like darkness, but overall, it's a bit funny with it, you know um, or witches can also be a bit like child friendly, like The Witches. I think it wasn't that by Roald Dahl. But that sort of stuff, still child friendly, hocus pocus, you know. The last sort of
Mm.
serious witch stuff we got were like Macbeth, you know. Witches aren't that scary.
Ah,
Um,
hold on. You're forgetting what we did last week.
Witchfinder General, the witches weren't real.
Yeah,
So
but
when
still, which
well,
related, so you could
yeah,
kind of argue that.
no, I'm only saying that's witch related. I'm talking I'm talking real witches, real witches that can do magic and shit. Like it's Harry Potter shit in it. Like it's not that scary. So I think Suspiria, it's one of the few examples of horror where they've gone the witch direction. They've gone with a coven of witches, and they've gone for a real attempt at some visceral horror, and they've achieved it. I would say there's definitely the horror is great in this movie. When you get the horror, it's built on tension, it's built on suspense. It's not like done through the graphic. It earns its scare. It gets you there. It gets like I say, it builds that tension first. It gets you excited. You know that the scare's coming, and you know it's just done beautifully. It's done beautifully, and it doesn't try and pull the rug out from under you. There's no like fake jump scares or anything. You know, it's just we're going to scare you. We're going to earn the scare. I think it's done so well. I especially I know you didn't like it, but I really love the barbed wire scene. I think it does it so well, and I feel like if there was genuine violence in that scene, in terms of uh, you could see barbs on the wires and there was more blood involved, then I don't think you could fault that scene at all. Um, Even though they build up that whole door thing, I think I want to believe that was done intentional to suggest that this has been done before, and that they've clearly set up that area, which means that there's a reason they're not straight away bursting through the door. They want her to jump in the barbed wire.
Or they're just really lazy and just threw a pile of barbed wire. Well, we'll deal with that later,
I
and then
mean,
just move on.
I suppose there could be some construction going on at the time, but I'd like to believe that that's totally intentional.
I
Um,
like your optimism.
yeah, and then that's pretty much the end of the film. She leaves, and then we get the Goblin soundtrack, and it's done. Although I will say, so the whole building's like falling down because she killed Helena
Marcos,
Helena Marcos. I called her Helena. I said
Helen
Helen Mirren.
Mirren.
Um, so she's leaving a building that's falling down on fire. Also, it seems that there's no students running out of this falling building. Haven't seen any students in the scene at all in this climax, and we know that there's students in the building. So
Maybe up to, I don't know how many students must have been. Maybe up to 100 people could have died in that fire.
yeah, but where are they? Surely they're jumping out of bed and running away.
Or
Surely, but they're not.
maybe they were never real.
You see, I was hoping that. I was hoping that the students were never real. She was the only real student. That would have been cool. That's probably what I would have done if I was making the movie. That like all the other students were actually the witches, sort of, uh, you know, lulling her into a sense of something so they could turn her into a witch. That's what
I
I would have
was
done.
I was wondering if there was like, this is my speculation now, if there was some kind of curse on the witches, because you notice how
Perhaps.
you have this Pat character who finds something out, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just like the witches then murder her, and her best friend was Sarah, and Sarah then starts investigating, and then she gets murdered, and then every time one of them gets murdered who's investigating it, the next friend then starts getting curious, starts investigating himself, and then they get murdered, and it's like a chain. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering if that was like a curse that the witches were going through, of like trying to make more witches, but every time they keep trying to make a new witch, some bullshit like this happens, and then they have to kill them, and then it's just a never ending.
Yeah, but the thing is, they need to have the one that can dance as well.
But why
It,
would they
it,
need to dance?
I don't know, but it's important that they dance.
Because I was thinking the dance school is just the cover for the Covenant.
No, no, I feel like the dancing's important. Don't ask me why. I just know. I believe. Argento knows.
I think you're the only one who think. No, no, I'm joking. I think other people also agree, but sometimes I struggle to.
Yeah.
I think you're being. I think some people are very liberal, like when they're trying to like. Oh no, there's probably a reason behind that. But sometimes I think with these kind of films, it's not really a heavy reason. A lot of the time, I think we're just putting our own reasons there. By the way, we're pretty much close to the end on this one. Should we start wrapping it up?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, let's wrap this puppy up. Oh,
I was just
that's
going to
right.
say as well, another note I was going to say that I forgot. If you started getting some suspicion that there's some freaky witch shit going on and people have been murdered and disappearing, like I wouldn't investigate. I'd be a total. I'll just get the fuck out. Like I
Yeah,
would
you
just
just
like,
leave.
okay,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'd just get the fuck out of there. If I was that blind guy, yeah, I wouldn't have waited for them to set me up. I'd have been out of there. If I was that Susie girl, I'd have been out of there the moment I see a woman coming out screaming shit, screaming bloody murder, and then she disappears she gets murdered that night. There's no, I would, I mean, it's my first time in Germany. It's my first night in Germany. Like, fucking for real. No, I'd be gone. I'd be gone the moment. Yeah, I don't even think I'd have gone back the next day. Or maybe if I had, and then the moment I find out the girl had been killed, I'm gone. All right, let's give this thing a rating. What do you give it out of three primary colors? Red, yellow, blue.
or you can't fault its colors, can you? It's gonna have three.
Exactly. So you have to give it three primary colors out of three. All right, that's a good rating. Or I tell you what, do it out of a spectrum of light. How many colors out of a spectrum? Or what color in the spectrum of light do you give it?
Oh, that's no. You have to give it at least two. At least
No, no.
two. No, three colors I would really pick that I think of when I see this film.
Okay, okay. So you can give me more than one color, but like, what colors in a spectrum of light are you giving this movie, and why?
I'm going to give you the colors that I most associate when I think of this a film in my head.
Of
Uh,
course.
strong like this, like red, dark blue, and green. Those are like when I'm thinking of
Hmm.
this film. I don't think of your yellow. I don't have any hope.
Well, that's why.
Uh,
Yeah, that's it. I think that the yellow is used so sparingly that when it does get used, it's very, very like noticeable,
yeah,
and then it becomes very prominent towards the end, which I do feel is this sort of building of hope, not necessarily for the character, but for the audience. But I'm reading a lot into it.
you
I'm,
are, you are. But I think you're not alone in that. I think a lot of other people also do the same.
I'm sure there are people out there that agree with me.
I'm sure there are
I'm
people that have
sure.
done a lot more as well. Like they've really gone
Yeah.
even further. And I think this is really a film that's for film students. And this is a film that we both
Mm,
probably discovered like, I definitely discovered this at university. I don't know if
yeah.
you'd known about it before, but
I mean, I'd
like,
heard about it, but I'd never seen clips of it. And then it was uni that sort of introduced me to the color of Argento and his cinema. And then it sort of piqued my interest. I'd watched other Argento films before watching this one.
yeah,
Mm.
I hadn't seen any, and I still haven't seen any others apart from Suspiria.
We need to give it an IMDb rating though. Oh, and I need to give it hang on a minute. We're skipping over my rating. Fuck you, Craig. I'm going to give it one color. I'm going to give it white, which is all the colors.
Oh,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
that's
say
my
it's that spectrumy.
yeah. Oh, for me, I mean, I don't think you can. I don't think you'd be allowed to give it any other color. It'd have to be white. It's all the colors. It's every color. I mean, obviously it isn't though when you watch it, but for the
Yeah,
sake of this scale, it's every color at the same time. So it's white. It's a prism, and but IMDb rating, Craig. What are you going to give it?
IMDb rating.
Now we
See,
can be a bit more. We can be a bit more serious with our IMDb rating.
yeah, so it's tricky because like I don't want to start I feel that we give things a lot of like between 4 and 6s on our podcast.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I do feel like a 6 is pretty good, a high 6.
Hmm.
But I don't know really because I feel that in terms of influence and style, it deserves a bit more recognition than that. But I will tell you this: am I going to watch this film in a hurry anytime soon? Probably not, really.
Yeah,
Um, so I don't know. I guess there's. I like how Rotten Tomatoes does it in two ways. They have
that's
the
that's the point of us doing our own silly review and an IMDb review.
well. Let's think of it this way then. If you're going to recommend a friend, and if you're going to recommend someone who really loves film, how would you
Uh,
rate it to both people? Because there's different kinds of people who will watch it for different reasons.
So we're going to give it two IMDb ratings for two different reasons.
Yeah, there's someone who just wants a random horror film to watch, probably doesn't know much about film, and you
Okay,
got
all right.
like your a film mate who really wants something intelligent to watch. So how would
Okay,
you
so
rate it then?
for the casual film goer, I'd say it's a 7 out of 10, but you won't like it. And for a film fan, I'd say it's a solid 8, but you will like it. IMDb overall, I'll give it a 7.5
Uh-huh. Okay.
because
You
I
know
still
what?
feel like people who don't like. I've got a feeling that casual cinema goers are exactly the kind of people that watch horror films. I love horror films. This is a classic horror film, and okay, maybe you could make the argument it's shit, or you can make the argument that it's elevated horror. But either way, I still think if you're a fan of horror films, and that would make you a regular cinema goer, someone who casually enjoys movies, because horror is probably the most casual genre you can consume besides action. Uh, then yeah, I think you can watch this film maybe just the once. Maybe you won't like it, but maybe you will.
I think I agree with you. I think I'm going to give it about 7 out of 10, like an overall
Mm.
between the casual guys and the more academic-y film smart ass guys.
Just
Yeah,
meet in the
seven out
middle,
of
isn't it?
ten. Yeah, makes sense, maybe.
So before we wrap this up, then, do you want to just really quickly look what this film did get rated on IMDb and Rotten
I can.
Tomatoes? That would be interesting to find out.
Uh, type Suspiria is going to come up with the
The
wrong
2018
Suspiria.
version. I'd be interested
Yeah,
to know what the 2018 version got as a
let
rating
me
as well.
open both. I'll open both of them.
Yeah, let's have a
So,
look.
2018 version,
Hmm.
IMDb, out of 88,000
Oh,
reviews.
can I guess? Can I guess?
Go on, guess.
Because I've seen the remake, uh, and I don't remember it being bad, but I also don't. It doesn't do the color thing at all. It does not roll with color. It's not remotely colorful. It's quite a bland looking movie. I'm gonna guess that it got and something. I'm gonna say 5.8 to 6.2.
You're wrong.
Oh, okay,
It's
what?
6.7. So actually, it's rated a bit higher
Oh,
than you expected.
interesting.
Let's
Interesting.
see. Now, this is the older version, 77.
So I gave it a 7.5. You gave it a 7. I reckon that's a good bracket. I reckon it got something in there. Maybe a 7.3.
So out of 101,000 reviews, ratings, sorry,
Wow.
7.3. So it's rated a whole
Oh!
zero point 0.6 higher,
Okay,
quite
well,
considerable.
I nailed that with my guess. But
Yeah,
7.3, I wonder if that's the highest rated uh, Argento film. It's probably the most famous one.
I think it is. I think I remember I was looking at Argento a while ago. I can't remember why. I was
Hmm.
looking at all his filmography, and that Suspiria is, yeah, way ahead of the rest of the stuff he's made.
See, it's interesting because I would definitely say uh, Vertebrae is better. And I also thought, I don't remember much of it, but The Bird with the Crystal Plumage is something that I'd seen a long, long time ago. And I didn't realize it was Argento at the time. And I
Mm.
remember really liking that one, but I don't remember much of it, in all fairness. I like this film a lot. It's not the best horror film you'll ever watch. It's certainly not. It's certainly got problems, that's for sure. But I like this one. I like
They
this
did a
one.
lot for suspense and color, I think,
Yeah.
and potential depth that you
But
might not necessarily notice at first.
this is, I feel like it almost feels like an Orson Welles movie, but in color, in terms of the cinematography sometimes. Which again, I suppose that's why I think it looks like Kubrick. Anyway, yeah, I do. Maybe we definitely should do 2001: Space Odyssey one day, man.
There's
That's
so
a
much
crack.
to do.
So many movies, man. So many movies. And you guys out there, the fact that you keep listening to us, it's so rewarding. So please let us know what movies you actually want us to watch for you, with you. Maybe we can do a watch along one day when we're Twitch streamers.
Yeah, let's see about that.
All right, everyone. Thanks for coming out to speak to us. We are Film Shrapnel. Go check us out on that app formerly known as Twitter, at Film Shrapnel, capital F, capital S. And Craig, you want to say anything to the lovely listeners?
Not really. Keep tuned. More horror stuff coming up. I think we got next is Audition. No, sorry, I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Hellraiser 1 and 2.
Hellraiser 1 and 2 double feature next.
Yeah, and then we
And
end Horror Month with Audition.
we will close out Horror Month with Audition on Halloween.
Oh
That'll be
yeah.
released on Halloween. So look forward to that, guys. And until next time, keep it movies.